Hello, hello, Bandit again with you, the owner, proprietor, pilot, CEO, CFO, and all other O's you could think of related to Bandit Airlines, my fictitious airline in OnAir, the awesome online air manager tool that I use, the third-party app to go along with my flight simulator, which adds a whole lot of extra fun and purpose to playing around with a flight simulator. It changes it from just being sightseeing to actually flying with a purpose. What I want to show today is a tutorial on a quick way to make a little bit of money. I saw some people in Reddit were posting questions about how do I do work orders. I need to figure that out so I can make some money. So I want to show you sort of a process that anybody could go through to make some quick money and to continue making money as you go on. I'm going to show you how to select an aircraft to rent, how to select an employee to fly that for you, and then how to build a work order. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off looking for an airplane. Now to do that, you go to World and you have two options. You have the search/generate aircraft or aircraft at airport. This is kind of up to you. Here's the good news. You don't actually have to do what I'm about to show you at your home airport in the game. You don't have to have an FBO wherever you're doing it. Obviously, some of these will make it better because you might have cheaper fuel, storage, etc. But you can do this anywhere. As a matter of fact, my home base in this game is down in the Caribbean. And for this tutorial, I'm going to actually use an airport close to me locally here in Nashville. So I'm actually going to do it at the specific airport. So I'm going to say aircraft at airports. And I'm just going to put in the airport code real quick. BNA Airport here in Nashville. And then I just need to select my airplane. Now there's a couple things to think about here. One, is it an airplane that you might also want to fly? Because if the answer is yes, then you want to make sure you pick one that is in the simulation that you have and that you're playing. So in my case, I am doing Microsoft Flight Simulator. I will just do that just for show. I really don't care in this scenario. You also want to make sure, even though it's in that simulator, do you own the plane? Because you may not own the plane that's listed here. Now, the next thing that's important to look at is how much weight can the plane carry? Because we want to use this to make money. To make money, we have to carry goods and people, right? So the more we can cram in that plane, the more money we can make. Now, this also depends on how much money you have to spend up front. You can start off getting a very small plane and doing a lot of small jobs, and that will build up money really quickly. In my case, I have a little bit of a nest egg here in this game, so I can pick a fairly expensive plane, which the more you spend, typically the more you make, right? So it's just like the real world. So I'm actually going to look at using let's see if I can find one here real quick. Yeah, for rent, it's got to be available for rent. So I'm going to filter it by payload real fast. We have the Grand Caravans, which aren't bad, but I actually want a jet. Here we go, here's one for rent. Now this is not cheap, but I can rent this for $5,310. But I can make that back really quick with this plane because this plane carries a lot of weight. You can see it'll carry 8,550 pounds of payload, and it can travel pretty good distances. So I'm actually going to do this. Now, before I select this, it's also interesting that you have to know that you have to put a down payment down, which is equal to like 10 times your rental. So when I hit details, you will see that I actually have to put a bond down of $53,000. Good news is I get this back when I'm done renting the plane. But if you're just beginning, obviously you're going to want to pick a smaller plane with a much cheaper hourly rate and a much smaller renting bond, okay? But again, keep in mind, you get this money back here, this money at the end. Also, it's important to note, what is the class? This is a jet with 2 engines. And what is the max gross weight? 39,500. And then also, maximum seats 12. That's important because we may want to take passengers. We can make money, a lot of money, taking passengers from different point A to point B, but you got to know how many because you don't want to pick up a job that says 17 people and you can only take 12 because then you're going to have to split it, do multiple runs, and that's not what we want to do. Also, does this need a co-pilot? There are several planes that do need a co-pilot. If it needs a co-pilot, that means you're going to have to hire 2. Okay, so I like to find one that only needs 1, and I'm happy here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rent this plane. Okay, now I'm going to find somebody to fly it for me. Now, when you're looking for an employee, the good news is you actually get to tell them what airport they're starting at. So it doesn't really matter where they are currently. So I'm gonna go to hire employees. And you see you can hire a pilot, co-pilot, flight attendant, or mechanic. I'm looking for a pilot. And one of the things I look at real quick is, the number of certifications, because typically speaking, the more certifications, the more likely they are to be able to fly your plane. I'm not going to do a lot of looking here because I don't want to spend a lot of time for this tutorial. So I'm just going to go ahead and filter it by the most. Now, the more they can fly, usually the more expensive they are, okay? But again, I'm just trying to keep this short. So I'm just going to find a person here. Okay, this person can fly 12. If I hit the evaluate button, I can see all the things that they can fly. And I can see jet and heavy jet. So I'm good here. Now, do I want to hire this person permanently or do I want to pay them as a contractor? Well, I'm going to do the freelance. So I'm going to go ahead and have them start at my airport. They're not going to want to work for me long because I'm going to fly their ass off. Here's the number of days. So you can pick 1 to 3 days they're going to work for you. I'm just going to set it to 1, and I'm going to hire my freelancer. At this point now, I have a plane sitting at B&A Airport in Nashville, and I have an employee sitting there ready to fly. So the next thing I have to do is build up some work orders and put that person to work. So now I'm just simply going to click on the shortcut here for aircraft and look for that airplane. So I told you it's at B&A. Right here it is. See, it's sitting here. It's rented. It's ready for action. So first thing I want to do is I have to find a job for this plane. So I'm going to click on the Find Job button. And I have to decide, how far do I want to fly? Usually the further you fly, the more money you can make, the more time it takes, and the more complicated it gets. In this case, I'm going to do 50 to 250. I've got it set to 4,000 pounds max. That'll give me, I can maybe do multiple jobs. I could bump that up, but you always have to balance weight versus how much gas you have to put in the plane to get there, or fuel. Also, I noticed it was set to a max of 10 people. So we're good on the number of people. Now you just need to find what you're interested in, right? Look for some that pay pretty good but aren't overly complicated. Here's one, for example, that's 11. Here's a 23,000. This one, where's it taking me to? All the way down here, somewhere in Georgia. That might be a little longer than I might want to do, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. It pays $23,000. It's 1,651 pounds. Now, actually, if I want to maximize this, and I'm not going to do it for this video, but if I want to maximize this, I'm actually going to find a couple of jobs that go to the same place that I can balance the weight versus how much fuel needed and take as many jobs to one place at one time, right? You can do more than one job in a work order. That's what's great about it. So I'm just going to select this. And now I'm going to go start setting up my job. So I go back to the shortcut for the aircraft. And then I hit the More option next to it, and I select Work Orders. I don't have any existing, so I'm going to create a work order. And I'm starting here at KB&A. You can see I do not have a pilot selected, but I do have the Titus that I hired earlier sitting here, so I have to select my pilot. I don't need a co-pilot. Now I just need to select that job. This is the first leg. Every trip within the work order is a leg, and I need to select that leg I just created, the job I just selected. Now, one easy way to do that, see, I've got a bunch here because I'm doing a bunch of different things with including myself. But if I hit departure, I can just filter by KB&A, and there's that job I took. So I'm going to select the load button, okay? And you can see here, I have a lot of extra weight that I can carry. I've got it all the way fueled, 100%, and I could still take quite a bit of, almost 2,000 more pounds. So what I would normally do is go back and look for more jobs going to this exact same airport, because the more I can take in one trip, the more money I'm going to make. For speed purposes, I'm not doing that here. I have now created my first leg, and I'm going to KAJR. That's the airport I'm going to. I do usually keep a little notepad around so I can write this down, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the jobs. I'm going to go to that new airport, KAJR, filter, and you'll see that it's now going to take me down to that airport, hopefully. All right, I paused it for a second because there was a delay. So now I'm down at the airport that I'm flying to in my first leg, and you kind of figure out what you want to do here. Do you want to fly your pilot all the way around, or are you wanting to do back and forth trips? It's really up to you, and they don't even technically have to end where they started. They'll stay overnight someplace. You have to pay a fee for that, and then you can start them up the next day going somewhere else. So again, I'm going to look. Here's one that's kind of going back in the same direction. As a matter of fact, it's going to an airport not too far outside of Nashville. I could select that. You just click and look. One thing you can look at is the price, right? Obviously, how much money am I going to make? And then where is it sending them? Okay. Now, this one's interesting. You'll see this is a double flight. So what it means is it's taking 4,000 pounds of cargo, and you're going to have to go to 2 different places. So this is going to be a 2-leg journey. And that's what you're seeing right here on the side. So for simplicity, I want to keep it to a 1-leg journey just for this demo. So I'm going to go back, find something that's kind of coming. That one's probably the best. So I guess I'm going to go to, what is it going to? M54. So that's where I'm going now, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and add this, hitting take. I'm going to go back to my work order. I'm going to add a new leg. And you'll notice I failed to do one thing right here. I failed to put in where I'm going. So don't make that mistake. I selected to load it, but I didn't tell it where I was going. So in the first step, I actually would have had to put in this airport. Apologize for that. Now this leg is showing that I'm going to be sitting at KAJR. So I like to just go ahead and again, if I've got a bunch of jobs sitting there, I'll filter by that airport. And I'm going to load that plane up. And I have to put my destination, M54. By the way, sometimes you may fly them somewhere else first. You may have to get fuel, right? So that's why it doesn't auto-populate it. So you have to populate it. Now, I can see that I am overweight. So I'm going to lower the amount of fuel. Now, you can actually take it down to what's the recommended amount of fuel, which is 404. I always like to go ahead and leave it kind of high because there will be times, and I'm going to create a video on this as well, where you will land at an airport that does not have fuel. And if you are empty, you're stuck. And it's not a super easy process to save that airplane. Okay, so now I have 2 flights so far. I will add one more real quick, see if I can get back to my base airport just for the heck of it. So I'm going to go back to my jobs real fast. Oops, I think that was M54, right? And that's a real close airport, so I need to shorten it to 50 miles. And let's see if I can find something that's heading back to B&A. There. Here's a couple going back to B&A. So there's probably several. Here's a business trip going back, right? So this is 3 people. I'll take that. I'm going to go ahead and take this one because it's only 64 pounds of cargo. I'm going to take this one because it's only 98 pounds of cargo. Remember, this jet can take quite a bit of weight. Medical transportation. Well, I have got the skills for medical transportation. This is, you can see that it's 4 people that I need to take, surgeons. So that's a pretty decent pay here. I'm going to take that one as well. So, you would want to maximize again, but I'm going to go back now to my work order. I'm going to add another leg to make sure I select the right things. I'm going to pick the M54 if I can find it. There's all the jobs that I just selected. I'm going to load these in. And again, you could play with your fuel, set it to whatever you want. You have to put the airport in. And I'm going to lower the fuel because that's the last place I'm going. And I do know that place does have fuel. I'm good to go. I'm sorry. If everything is correct, I'm going to hit the play button and it should start up. And my work order is now being initiated. So you're going to see this thing. If you were to watch it, you're going to see cargo load. You're going to see the plane fly. You're going to see cargo being taken off the plane. You're going to see new cargo going in. You're not going to want to watch it. Matter of fact, if you just go back here, you will see what's going on with your plane. If it's flying, it'll say flying here. Right now I can see it's doing apron work. One thing you want to do if you build up multiple legs like I just did is every once in a while come in here and look and see if it's stuck. Because if the more legs you add, the more trips you plan, the more chance of an error on your end. And if that happens, it might get stuck, and you're going to need to figure out why it's stuck and fix it. Maybe you loaded cargo from the wrong airport, and that'll stop it. Maybe you don't have fuel. There's a lot of potential issues, so you want to keep an eye on it. It can get a little tricky. By the way, you could go in and just quickly pick all of your jobs and then come in here and build it. That'll work as well, but I like to do them one at a time because it can get a little complicated the bigger your work order is. All right, with that, good flying. Hope you make a lot of money renting planes and putting the fake people to work for you.